I tend to have a protocol where I use all channels that I have available to me and promote through those. And as time goes and I build more channels and have more capacity, then I move through those as well. So, I mean, it started out where it was just like I'll share it on social media. Now I move through text, I move through social, of course. I move through word of mouth and calendars. And so there's probably about 10 or so different areas when I am promoting an event that I will move through now, where I started out with one. Checklist, I love my workflowy. That is my favorite go-to. I was on there just a day or two ago because I was moving through another checklist. Veterans Lapse Matter is coming up. That's in just over a week. It's in 7 days. It'll be coming up next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Pacific. And so then, Harry and I were on the phone yesterday just making sure that last things were being done. And so I go through a routine check and troubleshoot on, is there anything that may have been missed? Me looking at it from the standpoint of a consumer, what would I be looking for as opposed to somebody who's in the midst of it? I think that we have to, at least I think we should, wear both hats. And that is, it's easy to go in as an administrator, but then you miss a lot of things because you look at things from the administrator portal as opposed to what about the person who's visiting the site? What about the person who is interacting? So, do you go and purchase tickets to your own event? And if you don't really know the experience that the person who does purchase from your event is having. Do you check how you get on to your own mailing list and what your initial hellos look like? Do you look at do you have an introductory video? And if so, then what is it saying? Is it accurate? How do you feel about it? Do you notice if you are natural or not? So those are some of the things that I like to look at. I like to take myself completely out of the driver's seat and put myself in the passenger seat or somebody who's going to get on the bus and then see what that feel looks like, you know? Um, yeah, and then going from head to toe, are there any things that I haven't thought about? Like, for example, one question that popped up for me is, hey, are all insurances in place? Do we need any insurances? Because sometimes the venue will have their own coverage, and sometimes you have to bring your coverage. And then what does that look like? And if insurances are needed, do we have the right contact person in place? Do we contact the insurance company, or do we get a broker who will know how to put together the proper package? Because that could be a real hairy situation if you say the wrong thing when you are going to get insurance because you don't realize that the company you're talking to doesn't cover a certain aspect of what you're doing. And then you end up having the whole policy, what do you call it, rejected because you said the wrong thing. And now you got to go through a broker in order to make it right. And then the broker has to now repackage you and then hopefully gets a different person so that you're not having the same agent that rejected you come up and say, hey, this looks familiar. No, no, we rejected that policy, and you don't end up getting your coverage. So sometimes you may have to have two or three insurance companies yeah, hey, Harry, how you doing, bro? Two or three insurance companies that cover you completely because one will cover, you know, food and beverages, the other one will cover liability, the other will cover errors and omissions. So you got to see who all does what and then who has the best pricing. So there's a lot of questions that come up and it depends on the venue. Do you need to have certain disclaimers that proceed? There was one program that we did, we recorded it several months ago, but because it had health and well-being in the had to create a disclaimer so that the program itself was not liable for somebody saying, hey, you know what, I took the advice from the guest who was on your show and, it messed me up. Well, we already let you know in the disclaimer. Any information here is for educational purposes only. Contact your trusted healthcare professional. If you want to take advantage of anything that you hear here, we are not taking responsibility for it. And so, so looking at those things, what all areas could potentially be an issue that you're not thinking of, and then have that forethought and then put something in place to keep yourself protected and shielded. Now, I don't believe that you catch everything right off the bat, but you do it enough times, you catch the majority of them. And then in your checklist, did you put other eyes and ears on your situation that are going to capture things that you won't capture because you're so used to doing it that you automatically fill in your own blanks that you have not filled in. So you get somebody else in there who has no knowledge of what you're doing, doesn't really have a vested interest in if they're going to hurt your feelings or not. And they will go through it and tell you, hey, what's this about? What's this about? What's this about? And then you could either defend it because you know about it, or you're like, ooh, didn't catch that. So I think having a checklist to make sure that you have on there objective eyes and ears, that's also important.